Okay, my name is Dave Dixon, and welcome to my channel. I'm glad you found me. Well, I just got done. I'm Japanese American. I don't know if I mentioned that in a lot of videos, but I am Japanese American, and I live in Northern California. So I just got done going to a local Japanese store called Sakura, and that means cherry blossom. And so while I was in there, I was able to get sushi and get some ginger, which I want to start eating more ginger. And as I was looking around, I was thinking, man, I should just go to a Japanese diet because I like everything that's in there. And other than rice, because I have type 2 diabetes, I thought, well, other than rice, it might make sense to not eat the rice, or at least minimize it. So, and I think there's a lot of benefits. You know, I got this stuff called natto, which is fermented soybeans. It's pretty nasty to look at, but it's very delicious and it's supposed to be good for you. I got some sushi that's wrapped in seaweed. You know, that's supposed to be really good for you too. And got a couple of chocolate almonds clusters. They're from a Hawaiian company, but dark chocolate is supposed to be good for you too. So try not to go overboard with it, but in my diet, all of that stuff could work. So what I wanted to talk about was when I was a kid, I remember that the rules were set up so that you could ride in the back bed of a truck. As crazy as that sounds today in 2025, that was totally legal. You just couldn't sit on the tailgate, and you couldn't sit on the top of the bed. You know, so I remember even being pulled over with my dad driving and us kids sitting in the back. They didn't say anything. I mean, obviously you don't want to be on the freeway, but local roads and everything, I don't think it was a problem. So it reminded me of a story. I had kind of like a friend / acquaintance. They were really friends of our family, and they had a son. His name was Danny Malazzo. Now I always remember his name because my mother numerous times would say, "You don't want to be like Danny Malazzo," you know, because he had a lot of drug issues, alcoholism. He just did a lot of crazy stuff. And as a kid, you know, you could either idolize him, which I did not, but you could also make it so that I kind of looked at him as somebody not to be like. And so I remember when his dad had died, his real dad had died, he left him with a 65 GTO, and a 1957 Chevy truck. Now I rode around in that truck quite a bit. It was a custom truck. It was burgundy in color. If I can, I'll try to insert it, not his truck, but a truck that looks like his in this video. It was beautiful. I loved it. It was so different. Even when I was growing up in the 70s, it was so different looking. And it was very, very cool. So one time we're driving around on the dirt roads like we normally would. I was with my friend Scott Little, who was a great friend of mine, probably my oldest childhood friend. He recently died from pancreatic cancer. I think he made it to 65, but anyway, that's another story. That's another story, because he was a great guy. And so Danny was driving down this road, and he was trying to do, burnouts, and we were doing where we go around in a circle. And it's funny when you're on a video, you can't remember any of this stuff. But anyway, we would go around in a circle, and he especially liked to go down the road really fast and then spin it into a circle. So we're in the back and we're laughing, we're being thrown all around and everything. It never occurred to us that we would get in an accident because Danny was a really good driver. So one time as we're driving around out in the desert, I grew up in Barstow, near Barstow, California. Danny's driving, we're in the back, and he had a friend in the front. And so he was going down this road, and then he was going to do, turn into a circle again. And so it was going to be pretty serious turn. He was going to try to do a 360-degree turn. And so he told us to get out of the car. We didn't have any cameras back then because it would have been awesome. I mean, it would have been awesome to have a video of this. All I have is my memory of it. And when Scott was alive, we would talk about it. But other than that, you know, there's no history of this ever happening. It was a custom 1957 Chevy that, one thing I remember is that his father had put all of the electronics and stuff into a little box on the firewall. So when you looked inside there, it looked super, super clean. And the burgundy paint was on the inside, burgundy paint was on the outside. It was just a stunning car. And he had inherited it from his dad. So we got out of the car and we stood off to the side. Of course, back then we didn't have cameras, we didn't have any cell phones, you know, we're just out in the desert screwing around. And Danny comes driving down this dirt road. I'm gonna say he probably made it to 65, 70 miles an hour. It was fast. And then he locked up the wheels and started to do this 360-degree spin. But the problem was he was really close to the major road, which was asphalt. Everything else was dirt. And we've been doing these spins, you know, in dirt, in the back, you know, hanging on. And so Danny comes down there, he starts to do a 360-degree spin. But when the tires of the truck hit the asphalt, they got maximum traction. And he rolled that truck probably, I think in my mind it was like 3 or 4 times. Just completely rolled it over in front of us. You know, it was the craziest thing I ever seen. And we were just in the back of that truck. And so it really had made an impression on me, you know, like I never rode in the back of a truck after that. And it just made me an impression with that 57 Chevy. So probably 8 years ago, I ended up buying a 57 Chevy from a guy that was moving out of California. And he had one, it didn't have an engine in it, it had a transmission. The body was in pretty good shape. And the guy who owned it was a body shop guy. You know, so he had replaced a bunch of panels. There's a guy driving with no muffler, as usual. So I ended up buying it. I remember it was $4,200 in the state that it was in. And so I was really excited about putting an engine in it and getting that thing rolling. And it was actually registered. I mean, it still is registered. It's on non-op. And then as I'm collecting parts, because I only do one project at a time. I collect parts for other cars, but I only do one at a time. I ended up finding a chassis that this old guy had made. It was a 87. It was an 87 truck, 4x4, cut down so that it would fit on a 57 Chevy short bed. And it was a 4x4 with the 700 R4 transmission and a rebuilt 454 engine and four-wheel drive. So he was selling it for $2,000, and that was a really good deal because all the parts had been powder coated, and he had nitrogen shocks on it. So it was really a good price. But his only problem was he was in the boondocks, so nobody would go up there. From my house, it was probably 3 hours. So I ended up buying that thinking, oh, this will be good. I'm not going to put the body on that old chassis. I'm going to put it on this new one with all this modernized gear. Then I ended up thinking, hey, that would be really cool to make it into a crew cab. You know, like my truck here is a crew cab. And it's nice to have that extra space. So I ended up going to pretty close to Napa, and I found a cab that was a 57 Chevy cab, just cab only. Kind of almost in a field, and he was selling it for $500. So I ended up buying that. And my idea was to take the cab that I have and the cab that I just bought and make it into a quad or a four-door, which they look pretty cool when they're all done. So I'm going along. We haven't been able to start it because they're still working on my van, and they're working on my van because I'm not making a big deal about getting it done right away.